Good afternoon. This is a quick special session of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board to follow up on a specific new business agenda item from the Tuesday, February 22nd meeting, and that is the proposed legislation in the Maryland House of Delegates pertaining to HOA and common ownership communities. Those are House Bills 1060, dealing with a resident bill of rights, and House Bill 1061, which would enable counties and municipalities to establish a fund to help HOAs and common ownership communities maintain infrastructure that's normally maintained in other areas of the county or municipality as a public benefit. This is a slightly different meeting, so it's an ad hoc session. We still are allowing time for resident speak out. However, since this meeting is an ad hoc meeting and not a general meeting to discuss one topic, we'll ask that the resident speak out be limited to the topic at hand. Any resident feedback on House Bills 1060 or 1061. If there's any resident issue, any residents speak out or any residents here for other issues, we'd ask that you email the board or that you come to a resident speak out at our regularly scheduled board meetings, which are the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month at 7:00 p.m. So with all that said, the first thing we need to do is we need to ensure that we approve the brief agenda for today's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Warren. I'll take a second from Bill. All right, is there discussion, Ginny, discussion of the agenda?
Could I amend it for like a 2-minute discussion on the restrooms? I've just made a decision about what I want to do tonight, and I want to see if it's okay with the board at the budget process on our restroom issue.
Let's see if there's any time left. We don't even have an agenda item for anything other than that.
Okay.
Is it something you can you email to all of us?
Sure.
Okay. I just don't know. I don't know whether there will be time.
Okay.
Okay, other discussion on the agenda? All right, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7. No, did I get that right? 700. No.
No, because Rebecca's not here.
Yeah, the tiles keep shifting around on my screen, so I started counting, and then one of the tiles moved, so I counted
probably moved
twice.
it. Here's Rebecca, but she didn't vote, so
okay, it'll be 600. I need to move this one right along because we just need to resolve this. We need to resolve this issue. Okay, is there anyone for resident speak out? Please use the hand raise feature in Zoom or raise your hand on video. Okay, I have Paul, followed by Alex, followed by David. All right, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I got to make this real quick. HB 1060 and 1061. I ask that you vote on favorably. I'm on the board of the Howard County Citizens Association. We have voted to support both bills unequivocally, particularly the Bill of Rights, which would make us, a lot of us who are on that board, live in Columbia lien land, and we would like to be members and have a voice in terms of where CA is spending its money and what it is doing. So with that, I will end my contribution here.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, next is Alex.
Yes, I'll be brief also. Thank you for meeting on these two bills, and I'll make myself available to answer any questions you may have about the two bills. I will have to leave in about 40 minutes for another appointment, but I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And I think we had David Smith.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say 1061 will correct a serious injustice. As I used to live in Emerson Hills, and I was paying county taxes to keep the county roads up, and then the HOA fee to keep the local roads up. And I don't think that's fair. So I'm strongly in favor of you supporting 61. But 60 is, I would say, absolutely critical. It is simply unreasonable that CA is set up the way it is. And I feel disenfranchised here. I've had long discussions with Ginny about some of this, and then finally gave up because I found out that that was the law, as it were, in the CA. And I think the state should step in and correct that. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Right, I believe that covers all of the resident feedback. So now we will go right to old business, which are the bills 1060 and 1061. And I know a little while before this meeting, Lynn circulated some questions to the board via email. I did my best to answer them based on, reading the bills 3 times over, although most of my answers were not really much more than I agree. That's a good question. I think it's all going to be in the details of how the bills are implemented by the county. But I did my best by reading things.
Yeah, and thank you, Jonathan. And yes, it is up to, and since it's a statewide thing, it is up to each jurisdiction to figure out how they're going to handle it.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, for 1061, we don't even know whether Howard County would do this. Nothing says they have to. It just says they can, and then it lays out some parameters for funding sources, but it doesn't say, exactly how they have to fund it or whether they have to draw from all those sources, or it doesn't even say exactly what the fund would cover. Although I do think, by stating that it should cover things that are normally covered by the municipality or county as a public good, and then giving a couple examples like roadways and stormwater, I think it is trying to differentiate between things like that versus, the condo community needs a new roof. Well, the county wouldn't come put a new roof on your house or on your apartment complex or anything. So, that's not usually considered a public good that the county would come put on a condo complex. But the county will come and resurface the street every so often, although I don't know how often. I've seen it once in my 20 years here, but it does happen.
Yeah, I've seen it once in my 40 years. So for people who didn't, I sent this out at the last minute because I've been mulling over these questions. So my question, and I'll just do the primary one. My question for 1060 is that I can see the reasons for it. I can see the benefits for 1060. What I couldn't see is, are there any downsides to it? Are there any unintended consequences if this were to go through for Columbia in particular, not statewide, but are there any downsides to it? And just knowing that there always are, and they can be minor, but there are things that, the devil in the details. There are things that I didn't realize that passing this would also mean, passing X also means we're agreeing with Y. And I tried to run through in my mind and boring my family, Phil specifically, with all of my questions. What could it mean? Could it mean that everybody in Columbia votes that we don't want open space anymore? I mean, is there something that would be a downside? And so I am going to vote for it. So it's not that this is something that would be a deal breaker as far as I'm concerned. I would just want to know if anybody had thought about a downside to it. So if you have, you can email me outside of this meeting.
Yeah,
so
and
have a lot of time.
I mean, I was having trouble finding one for OMCA. I don't claim to know enough to know what the downside might be for CA. And that's exactly the question we were asking. We sent the note to CA yesterday saying, hey, we don't have much time to take a position on this. We need to know by the end of the day why you think this shouldn't apply to you and to the villages. And, there was no response. So we may learn tonight at CA's meeting if anyone on the board wants to discuss this versus just accepting what the staff has put in the packet, why it may not be good for CA or why CA needs protection from it, but they didn't tell us when we asked. Warren?
Yes, so I read it. I read this bill like you did 3 times at least. And I see it talks about cost on page 3, number 4. The right to use all facilities and services of the common ownership community at a reasonable cost that does not exceed half the cost of eligible users who are not residential owners in the common ownership community. So I think what that means, maybe Alex, you can help me out with this. That means that if you're a member, you cannot be charged, you get at least half of what someone outside would get for that. So in other words, I think someone who went to, for us at Oakland Mills, went to the Breakfast with Santa, me as a CA member would have to be charged half the price or less than somebody who's not a CA member or not an Oakland Mills resident. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's what I
Yes,
interpreted.
Warren, you're correct. Delegate Holmes felt that because people in common ownership communities like homeowners associations
Right.
have to pay an annual assessment or an annual charge, whereas people from outside don't have to, then we obviously need to have a break on our fees and our that we're charged. So that's why that's in there. It's to recognize that because we pay an annual charge, that we deserve a break on the fees, as opposed to people from outside the community who can use the facilities but don't pay the annual charge.
And Warren, that's a good point, and that someone has a bad echo. That's a question where it would really have been nice to hear from CA, because we're in a unique situation here where we manage facilities, but we don't own them. But as the managers of the facilities, we set the prices.
Yeah, it could really
So-
impact our rentals negatively, actually.
Well, but it depends, because if CA excludes itself, then only the 10 members of CA, 10 members of the CA board are members of CA. So maybe it doesn't apply, because the villages don't own those facilities. We just manage them. But I mean, that's the kind of information that would have been great to have from CA.
It would have been, okay, so as it's written now, our rental fees for lien payers are certainly not half of what they are for regular people. It's like $100 off of each thing, but that would mean our rentals for non-CA people would have to go up exponentially. And most of our rentals here are actually not lien payers. So it could price us out of a rental
Why
market.
would you do that? Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why would you do that? If most of our rentals are from non-CA lien payers, why wouldn't you keep those prices the same and reduce the prices?
Yeah, but there's still enough that are CA. So say you're paying $1,000 and a CA person might pay $900 and someone else is paying $1,100. We'd have to reduce the lien payer one to $500. And, so unless we increase the other one by that same amount, we would be losing a lot of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if it passed the way it is, it would have to change the whole structure of CA and the assessment share and how much money they give the villages, because we don't get enough money to be able to offer a 50% discount to even our lien payers without pricing out others from coming to our events. So it could be a little tough in that regard, which I hadn't thought of till now.
Yeah, but again, if CA excludes itself, CA owns those facilities. So the facilities and services of the common ownership community actually belong to CA, not to
Right.
us.
So it might just
So-
impact our private rent, our special events.
Or not at all if CA manages to exclude itself. Because our special events,
Are sponsored by
Yeah.
Oakland Mills Community
I guess
Association. That
we
would be
sponsor
no
those,
big
yeah.
deal. That
But
would
those,
be
I mean,
inconsequential.
For our special events, we charge a nominal fee, if anything.
Yeah, so that's inconsequential. It's really just for the rental of the buildings and for the income that we generate from our neighborhood centers for the long-term leases and stuff.
Right. And I think it also says in this following paragraph that if you're a member, you have precedent over non-members.
Yeah, that's in the case of limited capacity. If there's limited capacity, and that people that pay the annual charge have priority
What-
to use those facilities.
So would that mean that if I wanted to have a wedding reception at the event, I would have precedent over somebody that's outside of,
Only if
Not
there's
if
that
it's
work?
capacity.
limited capacity. We're talking about where there's
Selling
just enough-
tickets.
Yeah, not enough
just for
space.
tickets?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like
just for
we might
tickets.
have an event where we always have said, if you're a lien payer, Oakland Mills resident, you can sign up first so that we can service them and then we open it up to everyone else at a certain point.
But again,
So-
this could all be why CA is trying to exclude itself, because they own all these facilities and, you know, that, I mean, admittedly, right, the facilities they own are not the usual facilities that a common ownership association owns, right? Usually you're talking about the little clubhouse next to the pool or something like that, not, you know, several large gyms and, you know, large buildings at each village center and an ice rink and all this other fun stuff. So that might actually be why CA thinks it should exclude itself. I still don't know why CA would include the villages in that though, since we don't own any of those properties.
If CA excluded itself, would that then not enable everyone else to be members of CA?
Well, I imagine so. If they get themselves excluded from the whole bill, then it doesn't apply to CA.
So then the whole talk of us being members of CA wouldn't apply.
I would think so, yeah. But again, we didn't hear back from CA, so we're just speculating.
I imagine
Mhm.
it's because they have the golf courses, the gyms, all of that. They'd have to
Yeah.
change their price structure. I think it would be the same problem that Sandy's mentioned as well.
Mhm.
And I really wish we had heard from CA. I wish we get some kind of feedback from them.
Yeah, their letter went out like at 8:30 yesterday morning from us, from Jonathan. Then even an acknowledgement that anyone got it. From anyone.
I agree with the bill. I really do think, I mean, unintended consequences aside, I think it should be, and they do, it is cheaper for lien payers, maybe not half. So maybe that's the issue of that specific metric of exactly how much, you know, discount the lien payers get.
Let me just say that this Bill of Rights is a statute that would set a foundation, actually, for how each right is implemented. And how it's implemented would require another statute, which could adjust that percentage. And so that's what Bills of Rights normally do. They set a foundation. They set a foundation for a more specific statute that actually implements that right. So that the question of the percentage really can be settled at that stage, at that next stage.
I mean, if we wanted to support this, we could theoretically support it, you know, with the caveat that, you know, Columbia and its villages are in a unique situation in that our property is accessible and available for rent, beyond the typical small confines of an HOA or a community association. Therefore, instead of a strict percentage such as 50%, other considerations such as the overhead cost of maintaining our facilities, of the professional staff we hire, of the consultation services we provide, right? Because Brigida holds the bride and groom's hand the whole way through, so there's a lot of cost associated with that. All those things, we feel should be considered before setting any kind of strict percentage. And, upon implementation, perhaps the language should be softened to indicate that, to simply say that the, facility should be made available to members at a discounted rate, but, at a rate that allows the association, to at least recoup all of its overhead costs, something along those lines.
Which it is
Because
now, actually, yeah.
we do a lot more, right? We don't just hand over the key to the pool. I mean, I know people who live in other communities. We don't just hand over the key to the pool house for a nominal fee and say, you go in there, you clean up, hand the key back at the end of the day when you're done with it. We provide professional services, and professional services come with substantial cost.
So Jonathan?
Yes, Lynn.
Just to kind of be clear in what we're talking about here, we're actually responding to this in relation to two HOAs, not just to a Bill of Rights for an HOA. We're responding, and our response might be different depending on, are we talking about Oakland Mills Community Association HOA, or are we talking about CA HOA? And since we are all of us members of both, it kind of, what I might think is really appropriate for Oakland Mills might not be appropriate for CA in general.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think all we could really do, I mean, unlike CA, I don't want to respond for CA. We're not members of CA. So
Yeah.
I think all we could really do is we could in our testimony acknowledge that we manage facilities on behalf of CA, we set prices, but we also incur all of the professional staff costs associated with renting those facilities out. Therefore, a strict 50% rule, member versus non-member, may actually be detrimental to the finances of our association, because we don't own the real estate. We only manage the real estate. Therefore, we have an odd financial situation where we have to ensure that we're that we're recouping appropriate funds for our professional services.
Right, but setting fees is sort of just one aspect of this bill. So I think that if we
Right.
respond, not responding, I mean, I would like to respond as far as whether I think CA should be held to this Bill of Rights as well. I, as a member of CA, would like the Bill of Rights to apply to me, not just as a member of Oakland Mills, but as a member of CA. So I think we should answer not on behalf of CA, but in relation to how we feel about CA. But I think we need to make a distinction between the two, that as Oakland Mills Community Association, this as part of all of our residents are also lien payers to CA, we might have a different take or another take.
Yeah. And I'm just referring to what we might want to do if we support this, but we have a reservation about the two items that Warren flagged. Because from an OMCA perspective, it feels to me like those are our only two potential reservations. And I sort of put it in the maybe category because, again, my feeling is if CA excludes itself, they own those facilities. We just manage them. So if this whole thing doesn't apply to CA, it also wouldn't apply to their facilities. So we wouldn't have to adjust our pricing accordingly if CA excludes itself. What we don't know is what happens if CA does not successfully exclude itself. Then we have an odd situation where they own the facility, we manage it, we set the rates, and I think we should point out that we have this unique relationship, and that more consideration needs to be given to that before you just treat the facilities we manage like any other common ownership facility.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, for the rest of it, if we support it, we support it, which implicitly means we also support everyone in CA, everyone who lives in Columbia becoming a member of CA. I mean, we don't even have to say that explicitly because it's implied in our support of the bill. Any other thoughts on 1060 from members of the board? Rebecca's giving it a thumbs up. All right, 1061, were there additional thoughts or questions on 1061?
So I think 1061, I strongly in favor of that. I know that all our open space is, it's an enormous cost for CA. And, but everyone can use it. Anyone can use our tot lots, anyone can use our paths, anyone can use our open space. And I think elsewhere in the county, property taxes of the county support the parks and the pathways and that sort of thing. So we're being doubly taxed for that. So I think 1061 would correct that. I think that's that would be, I'm strongly in favor of that one.
You know, I don't know that 1061 would really make much difference for those of us who don't live in a sub HOA. Because the county is already maintaining our roads and our you know, storm drainage systems and you know, all that stuff that the county normally does. I think what this would do is what Alex has been talking to us about for a few years. It would take those sub HOAs, those condo associations, townhome associations that have what are considered private roadways and private stormwater systems, and it would allow the county to set up a fund to help them maintain those, just as it maintains the other roads. But I don't think 1061, for example, would allow the county to help fund, like, you know, maintaining the open space paths or plowing them when it snows or anything like that. Because that's not a traditional public service the county performs.
What about stream restoration? Don't they do that in other parts of the county? How about parks? Wouldn't you consider a tot lot a park? Wouldn't that be something that the county supports in other places like playgrounds?
Yeah, but likewise, they could decide that we don't really need any tot lots,
Yeah.
right? Why a tot lot?
Right.
They already have land their park.
Jonathan? Hey, Jonathan?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, my understanding of the intent of 1061 was really to deal with the issues, as you mentioned, the roads, stormwater, that are just causing some serious problem for HOAs that for different reasons cannot afford to do this. The percentage that have to vote for it, et cetera. Where other HOAs, the county has already built those with the developer. They built them and they maintain them. So that's the discrimination part. As far as what you're talking about, Warren, boy, I agree with you 100%. I've been trying to get that message across that we are being taxed twice. However, we have been making inroads with getting the county to begin to accept ownership of some of our ponds. Patriot
Correct.
Pond in your area is one example. So that's the way we've been going, is more, hey, this is your responsibility. Overpasses, we said we're not going to fund those or repair them anymore. It's your problem. I've been pushing for that for years, and I'm beginning to see some progress there on things that we really shouldn't be in that business. Now, when we talk about tot lots, that's more of an internal thing. How many do we need? Where are they located? Whether they make sense in some places or they should be playgrounds, et cetera. That's a matter of what you want as a CA lien payer, how much you want to spend on a particular area, and that's through the budget process. I'm trying to think of something you could try and get the county to take over Lakes.
But
No, we
to
get
get back,
charged.
we need to stick to this bill. To get back to this bill, this bill says may not be used to repair or replace recreational facilities used for the exclusive benefit of the members of a condominium association or homeowners association or their guests. Now, I guess theoretically, anyone can come on to see a open space and use it, but I have a feeling once this gets interpreted, they would be thought of as guests using recreational facilities. I really think that this is meant to apply to what we consider like traditional, I'll call it critical, critical infrastructure, the roadways, stormwater systems, things like that.
Right.
So I really don't think that from the state perspective, it's intended to be extended like too far into the things we're talking about on open space, certainly not to things like tot lots and playgrounds. And then remember, this just allows the county to set up the fund. The county is ultimately going to put its own restrictions on how money goes into the fund and how money goes out of the fund.
Right.
Lynn?
Yeah, my question was just in terms of funding and the overall budget that the county has, and that if a certain amount of money, a percentage of the money paid by the taxpayers in a certain confined area is restricted for use only in that area, how does that impact what then? I mean, it's not a bottomless well, right? That there's a certain amount of money. So if some of it is segmented off as to only be used for this 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 HOAs and for their infrastructure, how does that impact what is then available for repairing the infrastructure that we all use? So that would be something that I would like. Yeah, and Alex, I was actually going to send you this question because that
Sure.
would be a big question for me.
It's a good question. And the concept is to create a pool of money in a fund, and then grants will be provided to those who need it the most, those associations who have the most urgent need. So it's not so much that the money, for example, that the residents of my community send to the county in the form of property tax comes back directly back to our association. It would not do that. It would be in a pool. Now, the county may say, well, we can tweak that a bit. And it's really up to the county, like you're all discussing, to fine tune how it's actually going to be implemented. This is simply authorization. It just authorizes counties to do it at their discretion. And then the counties decide how to incorporate details in county legislation to implement this fund.
So it wouldn't be in a position of rivalry with Holly Court as to who gets their road resurfaced. No, it wouldn't be a prioritization for the HOAs.
Well, Holly Court, like every other association, would have to state its case as to why it deserves to have a grant. And so
But the HOAs would not get priority is my question. That they would get priority for, there's an amount of money that would be set aside for the HOAs that would get priority for the use of that money as opposed to any other street in the county.
yeah. Well, the fund is meant to be returned in the form of grants to HOAs, and depending on the urgency of the grant request. Yeah, that was a good question. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I'm going to have to leave in about 5 minutes.
Okay, Bill?
Yeah, real quick, another way to look at Lynn's question is, right now, the county taxes all properties in all the HOAs, townhouse, condo, and some of those get that money back because those roads are already owned by the county. Places like Holly Court doesn't get that money back. So this provides the county a way to make Holly Court whole with places like Tarleton, where all the internal roadways are county roads. So look at it from that perspective, that Holly Court's been paying to pave the roads at Tarleton, but Tarleton has not been paying to pave the roads at Holly Court. So the county now can somewhat equalize that process. Yes, it would take out revenue from the general budget, okay? And I feel that's good, because if this county had treated all developments equally from the beginning, not given the developer the option, all HO internal roadways would be county owned. They're all already paying taxes, and the county would use that tax money to repair, replace, and plow all those HOA roadways. So this is a step toward an equalization in treating the HOAs. That's how I see it.
Yeah, my take on it is that when, that HOAs at the time of our HOAs in Oakland Mills, for sure, that it was kind of it was a new thing, and it really wasn't thought through very well as to what they did when they set it all up. Nobody said what happens in 50 years. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I think the point was made the other night, from a developer perspective, with no one asking that question, they probably saw it as, well, I can cram more units onto my however many acres of land. So, the developer 50 years ago made more money off of that land, and then is sort of leaving the people who live there now with the bill and the consequences.
Well, and to be fair to the developers, it also gave a price break to the people initially buying the units, not to
Right.
somebody buying it now. It's sort of the same deal with the 50 plus tax breaks that we have now all over the county for those developments.
So hopefully everyone was able to see that. Lynn, as you were asking your questions, I was trying to share the sections of the bill that talked about funding sources and then prioritization. And yeah, nowhere does it say that money to or from this fund would be prioritized over other public works projects. It does say that the disbursements from the fund itself would be prioritized based on basically like an application process and then an assessment of need.
Yeah, good.
All right, are there any further questions or comments on
I
1061?
have a quick question that is about kind of the whole thing, that we know that CA is taking a position on 1060. Have they taken a position on 1061?
No, they didn't even have
No.
1061 in their packet. Ginny is asking them to discuss that tonight, right, Ginny?
Yeah, I just sent you, I thought I had sent it late last night, but I sent you the email I had sent to Lakey, Wes, Susan, and the board, asking that this be, HB 1061 be added to the agenda for discussion tonight. And as I reminded you that unless a CA board member asks a question on this section, it's just assumed everybody's okay, and they quickly move on to well, they don't even move on. Doesn't get brought up at all.
It doesn't get discussed.
So-
Could you try again?
What was that?
I don't know what that was. Someone's phone.
Oh, okay.
So I think since it's a budget night and a complete, pretty extensive schedule, I'm just thinking this through, that maybe the best hope, well, I don't know, Alex, you probably expecting or hoping that there'll be a vote to support this, et cetera. I honestly think that's highly unlikely, but if we could just get it where it gives the public an opportunity to testify on both sides of these issues, both bills, at the next public meeting of the board, that would be something. And
Right,
it gives,
isn't it? I mean, it's too late. The next meeting of the CA board is after this will all be.
Yeah, I mean, for the
No, wait a
hearing, the
minute, wait a
testimony has to be in by 3 o'clock tomorrow.
that's one thing, okay, and if this is just coming up, if you expect actually a vote tonight, I'm just trying to be realistic about, with everything else on the agenda, that if I can even get them to talk about it for a couple of minutes, that would be something.
So, I
But-
mean, I think, I
but let me
don't
just-
think we can expect a vote from CA tonight, because we didn't expect a vote from ourselves 2 nights ago.
right.
But you know, when it comes to 1061, I do think it would have been appropriate for the CA staff to flag that as well and put it in the packet. Because CA knows that it has smaller HOAs within Columbia that would be affected by this very substantially in some cases. For 1060, I still think it would be absolutely appropriate, if not something that the CA board should require, that the staff explain why it's taking a position on behalf of CA and the villages before that position goes forward.
Well, and without you knowing about it, yeah. But what I'm saying is, yeah, the hearing may be, but they don't vote necessarily right away on a bill. So if there's a chance for a position to be taken and you can send the testimony later, you have people down there that can talk to the delegates or the senators on the committees to work it. And if there's an amendment you want, et cetera, there's a process involved. And it also has to pass to the other house. If it passes or if it doesn't get killed in committee, and then you have another chance. So this is not, you know, it would be nice to have met these deadlines, but it's not a drop dead, nothing can be done, is what I'm trying to say. And do we want the public to have somewhat of more of a say at an open public process with CA? I think that's maybe what some CA board members will want. Others won't want this heard at all, quite frankly, is my guess. But you certainly should get an answer of why you're being, they're doing your work without consulting with you, you know, in terms of 1060.
Yeah,
They're
yeah. I mean,
excluding you without consulting.
Obviously, we don't have any motions on the floor or anything yet. My personal opinion on 1060 is we should say something by 3 o'clock tomorrow, because otherwise CA seems to be saying it for us and we don't even know what they're saying.
I agree with you, and I assume you're going to do that today so that you can meet that deadline. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's what you have to do today.
Can I make a motion to support both 1060 and 1061? Is that it?
You can. Would you like to make that?
With the wording that you talked about earlier, that it needs to be looked into about our special relationship. You said it much better than I could remember.
With regard
Yes.
to our facilities.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're motioning to support 1060 with some language added to the testimony indicating that special consideration needs to be given to the unique relationship between CA and its villages when it comes to management of facilities and setting rates.
I'm pretty sure that's what I just said.
Okay, yes, I think that's what you said too. And are you doing, Rebecca, are you doing separate motions for 1060 and 1061 or lumping them? I would recommend separate so that we
okay,
can be
let's
on the
do
record for
separate.
both.
Sure.
Okay, so right now there's a motion to support House Bill 1060 with the caveat about the management and fee setting for our facilities. Is there a second on that? Okay, there's a second from Bill. Is there further discussion on Bill 1060? Okay.
So I think,
I'm sorry.
I would like to hear from CA tonight before I make my vote. So I'm going to abstain.
Okay. I was going to say, if you're saying we postpone the vote again, we're kind of,
We can.
we'd have to find a way to meet again and then write testimony. I think we'd run out of time.
Yeah, I just don't think I have enough information right now.
Okay.
Not for that bill.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4.
6.
Oh, what? The screen's moved again. Is it 6?
Right, I saw
Okay.
Rebecca's hand up.
I
Yeah,
see Rebecca's hand now. Okay, six in favor. Any opposed? Okay, abstain? That's you, Warren. Okay, so it's 601 for House Bill 1060. Okay, Rebecca, would you like to make a motion pertaining to House Bill 1061?
Yes. The same thing. Well, no, wait. 1060 didn't require that other line. 1061 is the one that needs the special consideration.
no, that was 1060.
No, 1060 was the
opposite.
special consideration. Yeah.
Okay, then yes, as is, I support 1061.
Okay, so you're motioning for the board to support 1061.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second from Warren. Any further discussion on 1061? Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's 700, right?
Yeah,
Okay, that means there are none against and none abstaining. Okay.
Thank
So
you. Thank you so
we've
much.
closed the business on
Thank you.
those. Ginny, we do have, if you have something quick you want to update us on before the CA meeting tonight, it looks like we do have a little bit of time left.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. Sandy's
Okay.
been talking to Sandy this morning. I want to make a plea, and not so much for Oakland Mills, for our vulnerable adults, which also include children that have disabilities, young adults and adults, that we, to put the money in the capital budget, now that we've increased it a little bit, for a restroom upstairs. We've done all the work. The staff's been fantastic about working, and so have some board members with the staff, with the CA staff. We've worked out compromises and we've been very reasonable. We've gone from wanting an extension of our building to, you know, something that's practical and reasonable. We cannot, this is a CA facility is what I want to say tonight. And for 40,000, Sandy, or was it 40 or 50,000 for that one restroom?
I have no idea. They never really came back to us with numbers.
Yeah, okay, so I'll
Never.
just.
If I could real quick, Ginny, if I remember in that discussion when we were present upstairs, I think they said around 100,000, if I remember correctly. I think it was around 100.
I'm
All right,
sure
I'm
it's not any less than that.
I'm going to use the restroom, and I'm going to ask the board to just do a visual of being handicapped in some way, walking, crutches, a walker, a wheelchair, whatever, scooter, or just having trouble because you don't have the strength in your arm and legs. And picture going across 220 feet, getting through that door, then having to open the elevator door, go down the elevator slowly, push that door open, then trying to pull the downstairs door towards you, get into that room, and it could be occupied, which is embarrassing. Then you're trying to get through the first room. Then the other door could be closed, the sliding glass door, because you have somebody renting the other space, and you try and pull that, and you may or may not have the strength to do it. But then you finally get down the hallway and get near the restrooms. And by the way, I know this sounds disgusting, but at that point, you may not need the restroom anymore, or you may still need the restroom. And you don't do that to people. That's a disrespect of their dignity. And this is a CA facility. This is not Oakland Mills asking for something special. And so I'm going to give it a shot tonight.
Please do. Thank you. I mean, we did, I believe we did invite everyone out to experience it. I don't think anyone took us up on that offer. I was going to say, if it weren't such short notice, I would be happy to film the experience. You know, we'll just put one of us in a wheelchair and have someone walk behind them with their cell phone camera or something. But I don't think we could pull that off by 7 o'clock tonight.
Well, I'm going to ask them to close their eyes. Some of them won't do it, or they'll get upset, or you can't change the budget at the last moment. This has been something, Sandy, correct me, been going on, this request for 5, 10 years, maybe 15.
Maybe not 15. I would say probably for the past 4 or 5.
Okay.
5, 6.
And the need's been there a lot longer than that, but which CA should have been more conscious of and really more actively doing something about if we care about our vulnerable adults. That's really all I'm going to be saying. And this isn't a present for Oakland Mills. This is to serve our vulnerable population. Let's get with it. So that's, yes. I'm going to give it a shot. I don't know if I'll get a second, because there are some people, I can just tell you which ones, that will yell and scream, you know, it's the last moment, you can't make changes to the budget. You're going to hear that in a couple of things tonight. Yet they're asking for something that's, never mind. So, you know, that we discussed the other night.
Yes.
Which is not as important as being able to get to a restroom is almost, it's almost a right. I'm just embarrassed that even having to talk about it, quite frankly. And it's not an Oakland Mills issue. It's not only our residents. There are a lot of people, and we just need to do the right thing. So I'm giving it a shot. I honestly just woke up thinking of this morning. I just got mad and said, you know, Dennis saying, well, the budget is tight, we can't do Oakland Mills restrooms. He specifically said that. And that made me mad when he said that about 2 months ago, but we've added some money to that capital budget. So I don't know, we don't, the odds are not good. It's an uphill battle. I may not even get a second, but I'm going to give it a shot.
Thank you. I'm actually looking, I'm trying to find first discussion of that restroom because I think it's more than 3 or 4 years ago, but
I could
kinda
go
searching
back.
through
It's
emails here, I can't
probably,
find
I
it.
mean, I could look in our budgets from way back and it's probably at least from like 2014. That's when
Yeah,
Ginny and
I
Bill
was-
were on the board.
I was gonna say, I feel like we've been talking about it for as long as I've been on the board, and that feels
Yeah.
like 52 or 53 years now.
That was
but-
about 2014. They probably should have really done it when they did our building in 2008, when they did the whole
Yeah.
upstairs, but
All right, well, thank you very
That's
much,
a good
Ginny.
point, Sandy. Sandy, I will use that. Thank you. It's
I
sad
didn't
that,
say it.
no, but I won't quote you. It's sad that when the building was renovated, that we weren't more concerned about
Right.
the vulnerable populations. Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, Ginny. Thank you, everyone, for meeting on, short notice, middle of the day, ad hoc, doing your homework on the bill, asking good questions, coming to a resolution. I will work with Sandy. We will attempt to draft something as quickly as possible, circulate it to everyone. And then, our drop dead is Sandy will have to submit it through that new site by 3 o'clock tomorrow. So I just ask that whenever it hits your inbox, try to make it a priority to read and send feedback as quickly as possible, because we unfortunately do have a drop dead on this one, and it's not even at a very convenient time of day. It's 3 o'clock on a Friday, which is weird.
Well, pretend it's 2, because I want to not be at the last minute.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's almost guaranteed the internet will go down or the site will go down or something strange will happen. Absolutely.
No,
And
Sandy,
pretend I have to babysit for my grandson at 8 in the morning tomorrow, so, that I can't not do.
Yeah, I will commit to getting a draft out to everyone today, sometime today. I don't know exactly when, but sometime today. In addition to my work training I need to get back to, we have lacrosse and violin lessons and honors orchestra and all kinds of stuff going on. So I'll probably just take my laptop to one of those events and sit in a corner for a little while.
Sounds good. I'll have my laptop at home, so you can send it to me whenever. I'll be
Okay.
sitting, listening to the CA meeting, and I can do other things at the same time, so we're good.
All right.
don't
Thank you,
pay
everyone.
attention to this.
Okay, thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
All
you.
right, we
Okay.
are
Thank you,
adjourned.
guys.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.